All right, let's see here.
So do they ever call at night, Linda? Do they ever call at night to let us know? You know, the Barbara, et cetera? Oh, okay. Bless her
I was
heart.
just Dan.
Maybe we should name the building after her.
The Barbara
Dameron Automotive Center.
What happened to Martha?
She's right there.
Oh,
Okay. What is this here? Oh, that's what you're in the dream. Okay.
oh boy.
Okay.
Okay, I'm calling this meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, Dr. Cervantes. This is your first official board meeting.
It is.
We're so glad to have you.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here.
Do we have any, we need a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. And Donna, you're checking public comment? Okay, no public comment. All right, President's report.
Very good. Thank you, Madam Chair. The first item is the recognition of Employees of the Month. And we have Chris Gettler, who was nominated by Andrea Mueller. And I wonder, is either Andrea or Chris here?
No, I'm sorry, they were not able to attend, but they both sent statements.
Okay.
Good.
Andrea said, I nominated Chris Gettler because he is a great example of professionalism. He is always willing to help. He is responsive, considerate, kind, and friendly. I'm happy to introduce, and then Chris said in response, this award confirms my thoughts that SFCC and its staff are in this as a team. I am very honored to be recognized, and it has been my pleasure working with Andrea and the PALM staff.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Yes, well, we certainly do appreciate Chris and his work and leadership with the Security Division. And then the WOW-gram, Valerie Grimley, former student employment manager, nominated Joanne Romero with HR. Is either of them here?
They are not.
Okay.
Valerie Grimley no longer works for SFCC. She's working for the Indian School now. But Joanne Romero sends her thanks and was very happy to be nominated and to receive the award, and she thanks the board very much.
All right.
Okay. And they had a recognition for both Pass It Forward and the WOW-gram. It was Vice President Peters' office that had cake. I think it was last week available, and it went in half an hour. Because they told me, come by and have a piece of cake, and I went, and there were 2 pieces. I didn't eat it, but I just wanted to congratulate. And anyway, that was a very nice gesture. Thank you to your office.
Do we always do that?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, good. And the WOW-gram.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So in terms of my report, it is been, I think it's, it'll be 2 weeks Wednesday, so what is that, 12 days that I've been here counting weekends. And most of this report, I believe, was written by Vice President Laura. Oh, okay. So, and it does present what has occurred from the end of October until just before I came. And it also has some items that are coming up, some events that are coming up, including graduation. And let's see, what else was going on here? Well, I don't think it's on here, but we are having, and I saw it as we were coming, and I pointed out to Governing Member Keith that there's a ceramic sale on the 29th and 30th. That's fantastic for holiday shopping. and it's 9:30 to 5 on the 29th and the 30th. And then I mentioned the Thanksgiving meal that our food services provides, and that actually begins at 11 tomorrow. I asked Basad, and he said at 11. So the other things, I've just, had a wonderful time meeting with a variety of divisions. And I actually met with the Health Division and with the Trades and Technology Division to get to know. I was invited by the dean, so I got to know the faculty, and we talked, and I listened, and it was great. And I know that Dean Bernadette will be inviting me to go to the Liberal Arts Division. So on my first day, I met with a dental assisting director, Amna Nayar, because on the next day she was going to have a dental assisting accreditation visit. So she just wanted to prepare me. And so the next day we met here with the two members of the team, and they happened to be directors themselves. And they came from California. One was from Foothills College and one was from St. Louis Community College. And Dr. Nayar was thoroughly prepared. She did a marvelous job of meeting with them, and we all talked with them about the college and about just an overview. And she asked questions to Nick about budget, to me about mission. I think Yash was there. So we did a great preparation, and then they were here the full day, met with advisory committee members at noon, and then over lunch, and then they were here the next day also. The outcome was very positive. We had an exit interview, and it was very positive. This is the third accreditation visit that Dr. Nayar has been through here at the college, so she's thoroughly prepared and professional. She does a marvelous job.
So when do we hear on that?
Do you know, Margaret, when we'll hear? Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, it should be soon. I mean, they gave us a very positive review.
Yeah.
And let's see, the other thing, I had meetings with all my executive team members. I met with 14 of them, my direct reports. So I was listening primarily and understanding their programs and their needs and their top issues. I also met with Nusenda in a group with a financial aid team and the foundation, the Santa Fe Community College Foundation, the Santa Fe Community Foundation, and the Nusenda Credit Union about a new approach. And governing board member Gamble was there also, as well as some of the trustees or some of the members of the Santa Fe Community College Foundation. This is a very promising partnership that Nusenda presented. Initial commitments for contributing to this program were made by some of the partners, and it's just a way to help fund some emergency needs for students, and that's what Nusenda brought forward. We have to do, obviously, some follow-up work there. On the first Friday that I was here, the culinary arts faculty and students, as you know, board member Keith talked about gaining weight with Santa Fe Community College, and that would have been a day you would have if you'd been here, as the students shared their delicious projects of all kinds of candies and chocolates and sweets and piñón brittle and on, so the line was really long, but they had enough for everyone, and it was great. And then you did hear me, and board member Keith mentioned that I attended the Northern New Mexico Higher Education meeting end of last week, and it's just an opportunity. New Mexico First bringing us together to work collaboratively, to bring about educational opportunities and student success by partnering together and including job and career possibilities that we'll partner on. And it was a very positive, but we got homework, and they really kept it going. It was pretty impressive the way they kept us moving and giving feedback. So I think that, that was my first week. Oh, I do want to mention, and that many of you do know, that former President Jim McLaughlin passed away, and governing board member Romero and Chair Siegel was there, and I didn't know either he or former President Sheila Ortego, but I went to represent the college and to pay my condolences on behalf of the college. We're getting ready, as I said, for graduation, and I already met with our registrar, and planning to have a wonderful celebration of the student success on the 9th of December. The other thing that I did want to mention as I look at our student board member is that I was invited to the Shared Governance Association meeting last week, and it was, in addition, they served a Thanksgiving meal. And I have to say that, because it was a meeting as well as a meal, that I was so impressed with our student leaders. They conducted a professional meeting, very well organized meeting, really prepared for the meeting and got up and each of the members presented. And I do have to say that Mary Elias, prepares them well, as does Ernest Kavanaugh. So I'm just very impressed, and I've been to a lot of student meetings, but this was the best in terms of organization and professionalism and being prepared.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for inviting me, and I do want to come back, because they did go to a leadership conference in LA over the weekend, and I imagine that Board Member Noemi, ex officio board member, will let us know about that when she gives a report. So that's it for now. I was very busy with listening, meeting, learning about the college, both individually and in groups. But of course, you know that we have an outstanding college in Santa Fe Community College, and it's my honor to be the interim president this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Our enrollment update.
Chair Siegel, Interim President Cervantes, board members, I'm here to present the enrollment report, and I've included tonight both fall and spring. We don't have the usual backside enrollment report that you all are accustomed to seeing. Ted Polkinghorn, who prepares that for us, was not here to do that today, I think, since we're a little off schedule with our board meetings. But as you can see, for fall, we're 2.76% down in FTE and credit hours. And that's awfully close to, we're getting near the end of the semester, and obviously there won't be any more registrations or anything like that at this point. It's very early to talk about spring, but I do think it's interesting to see, because I think that this is actually positive for this time, that we're down 2.64% right now, and we have lots of registrations, of course, left to come. So, any questions? I think Todd and Marcos may have a video to show us.
A video?
Yes.
Okay.
Video.
Let's see it.
So I'm just, members of the board, President Cervantes, just before we play this, I just wanted to just give you an update on what's happening. So you'll recall the 32nd, actually I start earlier. We were initiated the retention campaign last year that was kind of a effort to, which is different than what marketing has traditionally done, which is kind of go out into the community, new students, right? So marketing's now, we did a big push for existing students. That retention rate, I don't have the figure in front of me, but we did reach an increase in retention as a college as a whole. So we kind of are combating a negative trend, and we've seen some results. Whether or not that was a result of our work, I see it as a great coming together of a lot of different departments to kind of work collaboratively, and very much how our 20 by 20 initiative worked. But out of that campaign came a lot of discussion, a lot of marketing theory about the concept of heroes, the hero's journey, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the kind of, this is the fundamental stuff of marketing and storytelling. If you're into Star Wars, you'll see the same things, in, same underlying theme as if you watched just about any other movie out there. So when you get too deep into this stuff, all movies are ruined because you're just trying to look for that same story arc. So out of that Heroes campaign came the video push, which is just an extension of showing the students are the heroes, not us, not our services, not our product. We're just there to help them accomplish the things that they need to. You're supposed to have a bad guy in there somewhere. I'm not quite sure what that is, but maybe it's time, maybe it's finances. We're still working on developing that kind of hero's journey narrative, but those are some of the fundamental things that we put into that first round of videos, which included an emphasis on small class sizes, affordable tuition, and transferability, the ease of transferability. And so this is our last piece of that campaign, and this is just a culmination of some of that footage, also, but into a 1 minute and also a 30-second format that will be, again, pushing through social media. The last 3 videos have had about 36,000 views and growing, which is competitive with, TV rates. But we spent $900 on that last campaign. And so we're going to do the same thing with this in time for the upcoming registration in spring. And we also, I think, are going to explore a bit of TV because our market has made that traditionally difficult to work with television, but now television is becoming more sophisticated and we can segment and target our audience by region instead of having to pay Albuquerque rates, which was extremely cost prohibitive in the past. So we partnered with a local couple people who are local filmmakers to really put the emphasis on visuals, and also, again, always underline the fact that this is the student stories. We're just there to help them. So Mason, thank you very much.
When I finish the program, I'll get my associates in respiratory care.
I've learned how to stick weld, I've learned how to TIG weld, and oxyacetylene weld.
I would really like to write and film an independent comedy.
My experience over here at Santa Fe Community College has been wonderful.
The class sizes are much smaller than a big university, and the teachers are hands-on.
My classmates were great, the teachers were really supportive.
When you need help with something, they're there to help you. They have tutoring, they have computer labs.
I had heard in the community about SFCC, and it's just been incredible how affordable it is. People care about why they're here, and it kind of shines through in every aspect of the culture.
It's very important for me to graduate. I'll be getting my associates, and I will be working in the hospital helping patients.
I've worked really hard over these past few years, and I'm really excited about graduation day.
Nice.
Very good, very good.
So thanks for letting me. That's actually the world premiere of that.
Right.
So I appreciate no one walked out of the room while we screened that. So I'll consider that a success. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Todd. Madam Chair, members of the board, Madam President, I just want to give a quick update on just some of the things that recruitment and outreach are also doing. So really cool news. The recruitment of outreach traditionally is a team of 2, and that is me and my student admissions counselor, Daniela Gurale. But I am happy to report that we now have 5 student recruiters, outreach ambassadors, that are going to be assisting us in our recruitment activities, i.e. visiting the high schools, being able to have the opportunity to speak to students that they can relate to, they can hear their stories, and they can be those heroes that Todd was talking about. They also are from different majors, so I'm really happy about that. We have one in culinary arts, one in greenhouse management, one in psychology. We have one that is doing the criminal justice, and we have one in, what was the other one? Film. So we have 5 students that can tell you about these different programs that we have to offer. We've been doing a lot of training, leading tours, speaking to students, and just sharing their own personal stories. So we're really excited about that. And just to keep you guys updated, because I think we talked about this in past board meetings, we had the meeting with the Santa Fe Public School leadership, which is their superintendent, their assistant superintendent, and a few other folks. And they toured the campus, fell in love with the facilities, and we are still on target for February, starting to visit Santa Fe High School, Capitol High School, the Academy, having access to these schools that we haven't had in years, and that's because they finally got to see the facilities that we have to offer. So we're so happy about that. We're also on target in the spring semester to have more of those Capital High School days, Santa Fe High School days, where they're busing their students, and they're going to be busing, their plan is to be busing more students than they did last year. They're also looking at maybe possibly having the freshmen and sophomore students come on down too, and not just for 2 hours. They want to do a whole day here, so about 4 hours. So they're looking at maybe for their seniors, a financial aid presentation, acuplacer testing, and then having their own open house. So the possibilities are really bright, the future is bright, and we are really excited. Madam Chair.
Yay.
Oh, and Todd also wanted me to share this really cool stat. So for the fall 2016 to fall 2017 semester, last year at this time, fall 2016, we had over 630 new recruits. Right now, fall 2017 semester, we have over 715 new recruits. So we are very proud to report that we are up in our new recruits.
Fantastic.
Recruits are,
Recruits are new students, so any first-time students coming into SFCC.
okay.
That's great. Questions? Comments?
Good work.
Yeah, great work.
On
What,
those little videos, so you just push those out on Facebook and something
And
else?
that's pretty much it.
Oh, okay.
But that is, in my opinion, it's nothing to scoff
Oh,
at.
36,000 hits?
Yeah, and Santa Fe is a Facebook town. Just because of its, we skew a bit older than the national average.
Say it.
And that age group is the biggest users of Facebook, or they use Facebook, let's say, a lot more than they use Snapchat, for example. And so Facebook is probably our strongest, most cost-effective medium. But it's also on YouTube, and we share those in a couple different places. We have those rotating on our digital screens with a advertising group that has these video screens all in businesses all throughout towns. So if you're getting your oil changed or you're getting like a burrito at Posa's, you'll see those rotating in our Tecolote Cafe. There's one as well. There's, I think, 26 of them around town. But the impressions report they're extremely high on those too. So if those are going every day, constantly for the last 5 months, you get into the tens of thousands fairly quickly. Same with our digital screens that are around campus, just the amount of foot traffic that receives. If you kind of do the math, you can kind of calculate the number of impressions. However, people usually catch little pieces of them here and there. So it's important you keep those things running for a while. And so that's why we might get, like as staff or faculty, we get fatigued of our own advertising. We can't stand it anymore, but we have to remember that people are absorbing these in bits and pieces.
Great.
May I make a quick
Yes,
suggestion? This is just a suggestion. Since you're working around high schools and high schoolers are now using Snapchat a lot more, maybe we can consider sometime when registration opens up, you know how we'd have the filters? Maybe there can be an SFCC filter in there to remind them registration's happening between this, and this day. I don't know, that's maybe another form of possible advertisement that we can do to bring in more students.
Thank you very much. That is the kind of thinking we need, and that would love to talk to you more in detail about that. So we I don't even understand what Snapchat does. So you can come in and help us out.
Snapchat, what it does, it just, you record something or you take a picture and it just lasts for 24 hours. But it has filters, it has a little dog face and all those things, but also maybe SFCC can make one where we're like, hey, registration happens, and something goofy pops up on your face. Yeah.
Maybe a graduation hat.
There you go, graduation hat with, don't forget, registration is coming up, and then the dates. That's maybe a suggestion that can.
Great. Thank you.
24 hours.
Wow, Snapchat. Does anybody here do Snapchat? Really?
I've never done it.
George? No?
I have not done it.
Me either.
Me neither. I'll have to learn.
I wonder, Marco, could you talk a little about your new recruiters? What do they do when they go to the high school or, yeah?
Thank you very much, Board Member Gamble. So what their job primarily is to do when they go to the high schools is they serve a variety of functions. One of the things that we have them assist us with is when we go to college fairs. They staff tables, and sometimes, like when we have one of our students that's a nursing student, she'll come in her scrubs, and that's attractive to students that are interested in the medical field, and they beeline right to the SFCC table. And what's really cool, so what gives us an advantage when we're local in Santa Fe, there's other recruiters, other schools that are there, but when they see the young faces, they go right to them. And our students are trained in answering basic admissions questions regarding what degrees do we have? What certificates do we have to offer? What's great about SFCC? What's great about our facilities? So they are trained in some basics on the financial aid, like the lottery scholarship, the Road to Success scholarship. So they're prepared and trained to answer those basic questions that a high school student might have. Of course, if the questions get a little bit more technical, they're more than welcome to pass that information over to either myself or my student admissions counselor, who will always join these students if we're visiting the high school in case a counselor or a teacher has a question. Sure. Then the other function that they serve is when they go into the classrooms to do classroom presentations, they're there again to just share their experience, share their stories. We always tell them to be themselves. And it is just so great to see the eyes and ears of these students that are sitting down listening to the stories of our students. And you can just see that it lights a little bit. There's a light bulb that goes off. Right. And it's just really cool to see. Board Member Gamble.
And how did you recruit them?
Thank you very much, Board Member Gamble. So what we were doing to recruit them was marketing helped us out so much with this. So at the end of last semester, all of our student recruiters graduated. And at that point, we had 3 student recruiters. They all graduated. So it was a good problem to have. But we wanted to make sure to fill up all 5 spots. And it was really important to us that we could do that. So we worked with marketing and public relations to do an aggressive recruitment campaign to let these students know that, hey, there are 5 spots available. You are the first face that a student will see, a prospective student will see at SFCC. So you're the face of the college. You get to participate in a lot of cool events, so not just high schools, but you get to participate in Szobra and any other community events like Pancakes on the Plaza, Community Day, Day at the Legislature, for example. So you are that face of SFCC here in the school, but also outside in the community. And you get a $750 scholarship, and it is just a really good way to not only get to know the staff and recruitment, but the staff and faculty across campus. And it worked really well. We had a lot of different hits, and we are very proud of the team that we have.
That's fantastic.
Is that
Melinda,
Yes, sorry.
I want to acknowledge and thank you for your words, using the word staffing rather than manning. It's a very important distinction we should be making these days.
I'll just quickly add, because this conversation usually leads to questions about tracking our success and conversions. And I want to get ahead of that quickly just by saying that we have been, and at a future date, look forward to reporting on some formulas that we're acquiring to look into the return on investment of these efforts. It's very tricky, proving causality, especially in marketing and with a big college that has so many different offerings, and we touch students in so many different ways in terms of our recruitment. But there will be a time when we can report to you on how, when we get into a more quantitative aspect of the things that we're talking about. But it's going to take some work, but we are working on it.
And Madam Chair, members of the board, Madam President, I just wanted to give one really cool stat that we actually received from our Office of Planning Institutional Effectiveness. As of January 2017 to currently right now present day, we have seen over 2,447 new students enroll at SFCC from January 2017 to where we are right now. So we were really happy to hear that report.
Say that again from,
So from January 2017, so at the start of this calendar year, to where we're at right now in November, we've seen over 2,447 new and transferring from other colleges students coming to SFCC.
and how's that compare with,
Last year.
yeah, thank you.
Madam Chair, thank you for the question. We did not look into that, but I'll tell you what, that's not going to be that difficult. We'll be able to find that out for you really quickly.
Okay, good. All right. Thank you all. This
Thank
is
you.
good news. Keep it up, keep up the good work. I'm sorry, Board Member Sullivan wasn't here to hear, so we'll do it again with a new update maybe in January. Okay, communications. Senate, faculty senate.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, President Cervantes. First thing I want to say is feedback I'm getting from all across campus. People are very impressed with our new president. And she's been out and about, everyone's seeing her everywhere, and in the meetings that I've been with her, her communication has been very nuanced. It showed an understanding of what's going on here, and in the first week for her to land with her feet on the ground and come in and participate in very meaningful ways in meetings, it's been very impressive, and I've been getting that same kind of feedback across the campus, so thank you. We're looking forward to discussion of the presidential search. I know I got a little bit in the session today, but we would really like at some point to have a meaningful dialogue with the whole Senate. Possibly the Chair Siegel could come to our meeting and talk about what our role is going to be and how that's going to play out. We got a presentation about the state common learning outcomes at the last, and it was a long discussion and will be ongoing about how we're going to take those common learning outcomes and apply them on our campus, because it will, some discussion from the curriculum committee about potentially eliminating our cultural perspectives and sustainability measures, and instead incorporating them more deeply into what are going to be the learning outcomes that the state is mandating. And it seems like a really good thing because it'll put everything onto a transfer matrix. But we're having an ongoing discussion about that. That'll be in our next meeting on the 1st too. Let's see. We also got a report back from the people that were having the conversation about what are going to be our new projects from AQUIP. And so that was an interesting conversation. We have some concerns about the rollout of college service and how that's being, when we were discussing the policy on college service, I know that the Senate discussed how we thought, at least in the initial part, it shouldn't be too prescriptive, that we should give faculty an opportunity to define their own service and come back and report back on how that benefited the college, how it was related to the mission, instead of it trying to be preemptively determining whether that would be or not. There are so many departments and so many areas in so many ways people have done college service in the past, and we'd like to see that we're not saying that everything should be accepted, but once things, we think a faculty member who believes that something is of service to the college should be given the opportunity to demonstrate that for at least one semester and come back and report back about why that really was a positive impact. There was also, there was some discussion with President Grissom about how the role that adjunct faculty can play in representing the Senate at meetings. And we feel that, we understand that all the adjunct faculty are not equally up to the task, but many of them are. We have many adjunct faculty who have been teaching here 10 or 15 years. And so as long as we show some discretion about how that works, an awful lot of our faculty are adjuncts. A lot of them care an awful lot about this college, and we'd like to give allow them to have those kind of opportunities. One thing that's of concern is we've been having difficulty finding somebody who really wants to be our secretary. We had a secretary elected, but her course schedule was shifted in convocation week, and she had to withdraw as secretary. And we've been having our vice chair has been helping to fill in by doing minutes. And I think she's doing a really good job, but she can't continue to do that without any compensation. We've had some conversations with Vice President Peters about how that might work, and there may be some compromise in there, but I know that our person who's been acting as secretary, who was chosen by the Senate as secretary, is not willing to fulfill that role anymore. We're still looking for someone who could, but if we can get some level of compensation, we'd like to see that money freed up to allow that. And lastly, you had a good meeting today with Board Member Gamble about the College Promise campaign, and he's going to be coming to present to the Senate on November 1st about that, just as kind of an initial delve into that issue to let people know what it's all about and find out which faculty might want to help to promote and expand the program. And I've been doing a lot of reading about that, and I think it's a fantastic idea, and I think there are an awful lot of opportunities, especially the areas where we can have mentorship going into the high school. So a student who wants to be part of this program could potentially be mentored so that by the time they get to our college, maybe they've already finished the first year of their associate's degree, or at least we're guiding them so that they're not coming in needing remedial classes. So I think the mentoring and helping to guide people through is a fantastic idea, and I think there's an awful lot of potential for building enrollment and getting students out of the local high schools better prepared to start our program. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Questions? All right, thanks for the update.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can you take over chairing the committee?
Sure. As soon as I find the agenda here. And here it is. Okay, Staff Senate report.
Megan McGarity sent me an email that no one was able to attend. Linda Pena was going to come, and then her daughter became ill, and so she had to go home. But she sent me a message to read to you. She said, Staff Senate welcomes Dr. Cervantes to SFCC. The SFCC community, we look forward to supporting her in achieving SFCC strategic goals. Staff Senate is excited about the progress made to increase the EEB from 5 to 6 credit hours. We understand that the board has to review the related policy before the opportunity is made available to SFCC employees, and we thank them for their support in this endeavor. We'd like to wish the governing board a joyous Thanksgiving. Sincerely, the Staff Senate.
Okay, thank you. And student government report?
Thank you. Good afternoon. Chair Siegel is not here. She stepped out, but Term President Cervantes and members of the board. My name is Noemi, and I am the president of the Student Government Association. So for report tonight, I do have that we did have our Thanksgiving meal, which Term President Cervantes attended. And our meals were served by our exec team, our senators, and also the student ambassadors assisted in serving these meals. We did have about 106 attendees to this past meeting. We will not have a meeting this Wednesday because it is our Thanksgiving break. We did go to the LA conference. It was an opportunity for us to learn more and to come back with more knowledge. There are many, it's so much information that we learned, and we do want to be a successful SGA. We are learning in the process. It's taking us a while, but we're learning little by little, and with the information that we have obtained in this conference, we will compile everything, work on everything from our constitution to our bylaws. We have a lot of fixing to do to make a good SGA, and also for us, when our term's over, for us to pass it along to the next term successfully, and for them to not have to do a lot of research on specific things. LA was beautiful, and we met plenty of amazing people who we also got a private consultation the following morning. We are, I hope I say this right, funding members. We were the first founding members to be part of ASGA when it barely started. We were one of the very first ones. We actually got a pin as in recognition. Also, we do have a couple of fund requests coming up, and we will be voting on these on the 29th. And that is it from our side. Thank you.
Okay.
Any
thank you.
questions?
Please, President.
Noemi, how many students went to the conference in LA?
From our group?
From our group.
So it was myself as the president, the vice president, the historian, the treasurer, and our advisor. And so there was a total of 5 students and our 4 students and our advisor that attended. And also I wanted to thank you for the kind words that you said earlier. It is really appreciated. We've had some hiccups, pushback. We're trying our best to make it a successful SGA, and for us to not only be the funding only source. We want it to be more of a community feeling. So we're working on it. We want to provide the funds for our students, but SGA is more than just the funds. So
I also wanted to add that besides Noemi and Orlando, the vice president of SGA, there were several students who were in clubs that gave presentations. They were very informative. So thank you. You're doing a good job. Keep it up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any questions, comments?
A quick question for Member Borges Flores. We heard a presentation earlier this evening about the Achieving the Dream project, and our coaches with Achieving the Dream were here on the campus and interviewed students, and we got some feedback from what students had to say. Okay. So I just wanted you to kind of talk with us a little bit about, to see if the things that were brought up about students, if you're hearing, and if SGA is going to be addressing those, has any plans to address those. So some of the things here were a need to build community among students, better Wi-Fi, we've heard that before, solutions for high-cost textbooks, consistency in advising, access to specialized tutoring, orientation and first-year student success for all students, including non-traditional students, improved course scheduling, and better customer service across campus.
You went a little fast, but the ones that I did catch were, oh, you have the phone. Okay. Just so I can answer to all of these.
Thank you, Member Romero.
Thank you. Okay, so the first one, need to build community among students. So yes, that is, actually that is my one priority that I have, because we are a community college, but the years that I've been attending here, sometimes it feels like everybody's in their own little world. There's not a lot of community feeling, and I understand everybody has their own schedule and it's running around, but we want to be in a place where our students do know what's happening, for us to help one another, to create a more stronger community at our college. So yes to that one. Better Wi-Fi. We are still, what was brought up was this is being worked on, but in order for it to be greater, it's going to take about 6 years. So there is nothing that we as an SGA right now can do, just because they have to go in and all the wiring and all of that good stuff for the Wi-Fi to happen. So
I know some of these are non-applicable to you.
Yeah.
expect you to answer. I was just wondering if there are any of them on this list that the SGA has taken as priorities, and I really appreciate that first one, that building community is something you guys are very committed to.
Also, the solution for high cost books, we're looking into it. We are. We're trying to get feedback. Also, we're actually going to be working on a survey pretty soon, where because that's what was one of my projects that I would like to start, is to see how we can implement maybe a book rental from students, help each other out. If we bought a book, maybe I do know some instructors get a free book, or that's what I've heard, understood, and maybe they're willing to donate that to the share. So we're trying to see how that can be an effective, and also for us to be able to keep track of those books. So we're still working on it. And then consistency in advising, that has been brought up also, where they're mentioning, if I'm not misunderstanding, is it where the advisors, they're having issues with finding their advisors? Is that what was brought up for that part?
We didn't touch much on that.
Okay, just because I did have one student come up to me and he said that for him it was a little confusing to have the advisors at ends of the college, when it would be more, more easier for them to just have them in one area and for them to find them there. Because there is one advisor specifically that is way, way far in the end, and I do work up here in the first year advising, and we always have to walk a student over there, because if you try to explain, it's like right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, and they're not going to find it. Then they come back and they're like, oh, we didn't find it. So we have to walk them. So yes, I've heard about that. I'll speak with my exec team about this one specifically, and maybe we can find solutions and communicate with our higher ups here at the college. Access to specialized tutoring, we have not touched that, but I do know that TRIO provides a specific tutoring lab and tutors for their students, so maybe that would be a suggestion for some of the students that are bringing this up. And then orientation and first year student success for all students. So actually, orientation and first year student success
What happened to 12 million?
is, the orientation does happen for everybody. Anybody who does come here to the college takes the orientation to kind of guide them where classes are, where everything is, how tutoring works. The orientation does happen for everybody. The first year student success, it's for anybody who comes to college first year, but I believe this year they did a second year student orientation kind of thing. And then improved course scheduling. We can talk about that. I don't think we can get the input from the students and bring back. I'll speak to my exec team about this one. And better customer service across campus. I've heard that one many times. I have. Also we have to understand, sometimes I do understand that our staff and our faculty, everybody, sometimes they're having a rough day, but we also have to keep in mind that some of the students that come here, we don't know how many tries they did to get to the campus. Maybe they drove to the campus once and they left. And they drove again and they left. And then they finally had the courage to come in and they meet someone who's like, what? What do you need? And they're like, uh-oh. And they leave. So that has been brought up several times. And that's something that everybody who has students and faculty and everybody, we have to come together and find a solution, because we don't want these students to run off, because that day that they finally decided to get off their car, they get greeted by someone who's in a bad mood or who is not happy working here. So also I think that has to do too with having our faculty happy and our staff and providing as much as possible we can have them happy with, and then that service will be provided, hopefully. But for now, I think 4 out of these we can work on.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For that.
Okay. Madam Chair, are you
I'm back.
back?
Anything else? Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can we take a little, like, 10-minute recess because we've got an offer on the bond?
Oh.
And they're in there trying to see if we can do the numbers. So if we could take a 10-minute
Okay.
recess,
Okay.
potty break, whatever.
That's encouraging. Did you talk to somebody? Did you talk to your, you didn't talk to your person?
No, I think that Henry sent her a quick note, and she said, "Can you get me a telephone?" And I sent that over just a minute.
But the more we get input from the students, the better that work is going to be. So
No, an offer sounds like something in between.
Yeah, like take a potty break.
Julie got to go somewhere.
Bye-bye.
And how would, I mean, if Barbara is sending
Oh,
me,
no, really? Oh, shoot.
she is.
It's been through 3 cycles. Oh, that's okay, I don't need any, I just, oh, okay.
Let some of them show during the meeting.
The 10 million is for all of the capital improvements, our fitness center, the 5 million, or whatever those are.
Okay.
It's IT. We're now on the next item on our, do we have any, we need to do our consent calendar. For the minutes of October 25th, work session, regular meeting. Board Member Sullivan had a change on the October 25th work session where it says Vice Chair Cedillo instead
Correct.
of Vice Chair Sullivan.
Starts with an oops.
Oops. No, that would be a change.
Okay. I move approval of the consent agenda with that correction.
I second.
Okay, and that's also, the consent agenda also has the the final reading of the fundraising.
Right.
Okay, everyone's okay with that? All right, do we have a second? Someone seconded?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Okay, our next item on the non-consent is the consideration of amendment and restatement of resolution relating to the mill levy and the bond issue. As you all who were in the work session know, we've been negotiating with the administration to approve this, and we have a compromise which would allow us to fund the $10 million that we had for the fitness center, the learning space, classroom improvement upgrades, the infrastructure improvement campus-wide, and the technology equipment acquisition for $10 million. And then, rather than have the $14 million request that had the new automotive center and all of the renovations in our current building for greenhouse classrooms and more science and laboratory classrooms, we would just build the automotive center for $7 million. And our president and staff feel like that we could do that in a phase 1 and then at a later date have a phase 2. So our bond resolution would need to reflect that at the 10 million for our regular capital and then the 7 million for the automotive center. So I believe that we could make a motion to accept that with our lawyers will have to rewrite the bond resolution and it would reflect what we vote for. Do you want to say anything about that, Nick?
Yes, that's exactly right, Madam Chair, board members, President Cervantes. Yes, we'll need to do that, but we'll also need to take into consideration that originally we wanted to bring this to the governing board in order to align the voting center locations with the Santa Fe Public Schools. So that's part of this as well. The current resolution that's in your packets also has that updated voting location. There was one additional location that was changed, and so we had to make sure that ours aligned with that. And then in light of the recent information from HED, as you said, we can change the total bond dollar amount as well.
So our vote would be to change our bond resolution to the 17 million, reflecting the distributions we just talked about, and adding the already existing language about the locations for voting.
Yes.
So could we have a motion to that effect?
Madam Chair, can I just
Yes.
ask a clarification? So if we scroll back on this and we're looking at kind of the beginning of the resolution where we talk about our proclamation section 1. So we're going to keep just as a point of clarification, we would keep the levy the same. It would not be changing, that we would be at an operating levy from $3 to $3.35, and that's going to stay the same. But then underneath that, we ask for 24 million in total, and we would just be asking for 17. Would that be the only change in this resolution?
Don't know.
If we scroll up a little bit in the next.
We scroll down.
Oh, down. Sorry. It's under section 1.
Breakdown further on.
I think rather than wordsmithing it, we ought to let the attorneys draft it, and, I mean, we can approve the concept.
Okay.
Right there.
There we changed to 17.
But just to clarify that we're not changing the tax levy
Right.
amounts.
Right.
We're only changing the total dollar amount that we're asking for.
And what it's going to cover.
Right, and it may have to be a little more restrictive on, can you scroll down some more? 24 million. That paragraph may need some tweaking, but maybe not.
Maybe not, because it's broad enough.
Yeah,
Big buildings and utility.
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
Good?
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. So can we have a motion to that effect?
Yes, I move to accept this compromise.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And so we'll direct our president to make sure the bond language is correct and prepare that document. Our lawyers will have to prepare that certificate of approval of election for the HSD secretary to sign.
Yeah. And we'll have that ready tomorrow. And then, do you want us to take it over to Secretary Dameron, or how would you like it to be taken?
I think you all can deliver it, but
We can
let's
deliver
talk.
it. Okay,
Yeah,
we'll talk.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a bond election. And now we can cancel the meeting we talked about for Monday.
All right. Okay, fantastic.
Okay.
Financial report.
Approval of financial report?
Yes, Madam Chair, board members, President Cervantes. We reviewed the October financial report with the Financial Oversight Committee earlier today at noon, and also discussed it in the work session. And as a brief highlight of the report, at the end of October, October 31, 2017, we had total cash in bank in our operating account of $1.4 million. We also discussed cash flow through the end of November, which is always a difficult time for the college during the exact month or weeks currently and next week, where we have very low and limited cash balances. We should have about $1.4 million as the lowest amount of funding in our cash account. Remember that 1.4 million is about one payroll, and we really need to see that number at about 5 to 6 million at this point in time to make sure that we're in a best case situation for our cash flow. With that, ING revenues had tuition at 4.2 million. That's up 7% compared to the prior year. State appropriation revenue is down 6%, and so that basically washes out the increase in tuition fees. In total, revenues were even compared to last year at the end of November, and we had received about 22% of what was budgeted in terms of anticipated revenues, and that's with 33% of the year. On the expense side, we've spent about 33% of budgeted expenses, and that is, again, 33% of the way through the year. If you look at the total expenses compared to last year, we're down this October by about 1%. In public service, we have a total net gain of about $87,000 compared to what was budgeted, which was a budgeted amount of basically breaking even in public service. We're showing at the end of October that we're up 87,000. So there's good news there. In auxiliaries, we have a net gain of both food service and the bookstore. for a net gain of 104,000 at the end of October. And that is outpacing what we had budgeted for the year. And receivables are about at 1.2 million, and that's consistent with what we see pretty consistently through the year. We have about $1 to $1.2 million in receivables anytime we report the financials to the governing board. So with that, I can stand for any questions.
Questions? I had one on the early childhood, so I believe we had a deficit of about 26,000, and we have 46,000 for the year, and I'm just curious as if where we are with that. And you're all ready, right?
Yeah.
I can just give you a little update.
Okay.
We have 104 children enrolled right now. And come January, the enrollment will be 122. We've finished the renovation on the building that CE used to be in. That classroom has been approved by CYFD and is open, and we have children in there. We have 9 classrooms now. In the spring, beginning in January, we will have 10 classrooms. And that's 2 per age group. So 2 infants, 2 toddlers, 2 age 2, 2 age 3, and then 2 pre-K classrooms. We've also recently, or will be shortly, receiving a gift of $100,000, half of which will go to the endowment, the other half of which will go to Kids Campus to decrease the deficit, as well as get some furniture for the new classrooms.
Okay, thank you. Are those pre-K or pre-K classrooms, the new ones?
The new one is pre-K.
Thank you.
That renovation was done in quick time, right? I mean, they really moved on it in order to
It was many
have it
thanks
done.
to Palm, Henry, and Andrea. We really appreciate their work on this because it happened pretty quickly, and it enables us to open that up in January for another classroom.
Question?
So where is the notion of becoming a training center and, those grand plans we had?
All of that is proceeding. I mean, the early childhood, and by the way, I hope this spring at a time that fits with the board schedule, Board Member Romero, that I can have Jennifer Selly come and update you all, because there are a lot of exciting things going on in terms of the Early Childhood Center of Excellence and the work that they're doing.
And is that being coordinated at all with the United Way initiative and the thing that Diane Denish is working on? And
Yes, and I know that everybody is kind of working together toward the same end, because there's so many things that are needed. There's so much room for improvement and support that everybody is playing a role.
yeah, I recently saw something that did not mention the college, and I wondered whether that had fallen off or.
I don't think so. I think there's still collaboration, but I can get you further details, and I would like for Jennifer to come and give you all a proper update at, maybe the February meeting, whatever works with your schedule. We can figure that out.
Okay. All right, can we have a motion to accept the financial report?
So moved.
Is there a second? Any
Second.
discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Extension of legal contract.
Yes, Madam Chair, board members, President Cervantes. As we discussed in the earlier work session, we're bringing this contract for the board's information that the current contract is scheduled to terminate on November 30th of this month. And the current contract also allows for an extension of 1 year. And so we wanted to propose that and recommend that we continue to do that with the current law firm Sutton Thayer Brown.
I move approval of the extension.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Let's go to the goals we're discussing in executive committee. It is on the closed session list. So we'll just take that off for now. We do need to discuss the approval of the RFP for the presidential search firm.
I also think we had Cuddy. Do we need a?
I'm sorry, I don't see it.
D.
Oh.
D.
Oh, I must be working off of an old agenda. Okay, whatever.
A legal services contract.
Yeah, I don't have
This-
it on my agenda.
Hey, Madam Chair, board members, President Cervantes, as we discussed earlier in the work
Okay.
session, this is for a very small purchase, not to exceed about $2,000 for legal services. Our college policies requires that the board approve any legal contract, so that's why we're bringing it to you. And the reason why we're bringing this to you is due to a conflict that our current attorney, Sutton Thayer Brown, has as they represent this vendor that we're trying to negotiate a contract with, and they cannot represent both parties. So they've recommended us working with the Cuddy Law Firm in order to negotiate a contract.
And the estimated amount on that, did you say?
Not to exceed $2,000.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I only heard one other aye. Motion carries. Okay. Now, let's go to the RFP for the presidential search firm. Take it away.
We'll start with this one.
Just give us a brief summary, and we had a couple of changes, I believe.
Yes. Madam Chair, board members, President Cervantes, we are currently working on an RFP closely with the governing board and in direct communication with member Romero on sourcing out a firm to do a presidential search. And so with that, I have Ken here who's worked on the details with this RFP. I'll turn it over to him.
Yes, Madam Chair, President Cervantes, members of the board, I have been working closely with board member Romero, and as discussed earlier, we've come up with a timeline and gone over the specifics of this RFP with you all. I've made the changes that were proposed in the earlier meeting. I will be forwarding those to board member Romero shortly. And my hope is to post this RFP by the end of the week so that we can get ahead of the timeline that we had established to give ourselves a bit of a cushion so that we're not in such a rush to get this done at the end in the event that there are any unforeseen changes or extensions that we may need to make.
Okay, and will you forward those changes to all the board members?
Yes, I will.
And the change was a couple of sentences about transparency and disclosure of contractual relationships with board members or professional associations or something.
Board members, yeah.
That's correct.
With board members. And then the second one was,
The resident veterans preference language.
so you have the corrections or changes on that? Okay. So can we approve this RFP with those two changes?
I move approval of the RFP to hire a presidential search firm.
Is there a second?
I second.
All right, any further discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you all. Oh, what do we have? The purchases over 100,000, nothing. These are all written reports, so now we're on policies.
Actually, did you skip approval of goals for interim
Well,
president?
we are going to discuss that in executive session.
Okay.
So the policies, this is following the timeline that is in place for reviewing policies every, I'm sorry.
Chairman, members of the board,
Yes,
Dr.
I'm
Cervantes. Did we skip
Well, these are all
It says-
information
It
items.
says written reports, that's why she skipped it.
Yeah. Did you have something to report on?
Or that needed to get approved?
No, it doesn't, well, I guess it does need approval because we're going to HED in December, on December 13th with it.
Okay.
The capital projects.
Yes.
Yes.
Although it's in the
Written report.
information items category.
Yes.
You didn't,
I
you
don't-
said it was an information item, not an action item.
Haven't we approved these before?
Not these two, this is the 2016 GOB. Yeah, it's an action item there on the,
But not on the agenda.
Yeah, that was.
And I wasn't told it was an action item.
Huh. Okay, well, we're going to have to put it on the December 13th. Is that when you have to turn it in?
no, December 13th, we actually present to HED at the hearing.
All right, well, let's discuss it now, and we'll see if there's any issues, and then we'll put it on our December 13th board meeting.
I have to have approval by the governing board before I can gain approval from HED. They require the signature sheet from the governing board before
Oh,
I.
if the transmittal form says action item and the mistake is on the agenda,
I think it's a problem because it's under information items. So we
Yeah, but-
haven't given the public proper notice that it's an action item.
well,
I mean-
what I'm asking is, doesn't the transmittal note suffice? Because I guess because they don't get that.
Right.
I got it.
I guess we'll have that quickie board meeting on Monday.
I mean, we could, theoretically, we could postpone it at HED. Well, if they don't hear in February.
I don't think you should
We'd
postpone
have
it
to
at
wait till
HED.
March.
No, no,
Let's
no, no,
not
no, no,
postpone
no, no,
anything in
We'll have
HED.
a quick call on a board meeting on Monday, as we talked about. All right, why don't you present it now so we don't have to really talk
Okay.
about it on Monday?
You all should have a copy of the presentation. I'll go real briefly through it. Chairman, members of the board, President Cervantes, thank you so much for allowing us to present it. Happy Thanksgiving to you all, by the way. This will be very similar to the presentation I would give to the HED, Nick and I would give at the HED hearing coming December 13th, and Dr. Cervantes, if she's available as well. I'll skip the student profile, the next page. And I wanted to go over the projects completed with the 2014 GOB real quickly. The campus courtyard renovation, which is west of the campus center, was completed with 2014 GOB funds. And also, you might note that many small projects were completed with the 2014 GOB. If you all recall, we went through a financial restructuring here at the college, and so our BR&R funds were very limited. So we extended our GOB 2014 funds to do smaller projects as well, and you might hear some of that comments coming back from HED. So we completed the campus courtyard renovation. We completed several upgrades to finance, including the payroll renovation. We provided for an ADA counter, which payroll never had before. We upgraded the campus stairs, which are west of the campus center and the exterior courtyard. We upgraded the campus finance office with new carpet. That was also a safety upgrade. We had carpet that was peeling and folks were tripping on it, so this provided a safer access. We updated the chiller at the kids' campus with a brand-new chiller, and by the way, we got a $4,000 rebate for that from P&M. We provided new safety sidewalks at the kids' campus, so that was that next picture there. Next slide, please. With 2014 GOB and STB funds, this particular project was with STB funds. We completed the Science on a Sphere, and we also added HVAC upgrades to that Science on a Sphere lab. We also provided campus parking safety lighting with an upgrade to LED lighting. We also received a $6,800 rebate from P&M, and we were nominated the Energy Efficiency Star. Santa Fe Community College was nominated Energy Efficiency Star by P&M, so that was a great award. We got an award last Wednesday at a P&M conference. We also updated some of the sidewalks between the fitness center and those tennis courts. We did major upgrades to a roof. We did about a $60,000 roof upgrade, and those are some of the pictures of the roofs. Next slide, please. Associated again with the 2014 GOB funds, we built an 11,000 square foot greenhouse, 1,300 square foot classroom. We're going to ultimately connect the 11.8 kilowatt photovoltaic array and provide nanogrid power assets. That's part of our microgrid project. That's a separate project, but it's going to provide the power assets to this greenhouse infrastructure. And we also have on-site water harvesting that was part of the project for the greenhouse. That first picture is the earthwork for the greenhouse, and that right-hand picture is actually a completed greenhouse. And down below was the classroom construction, and on the right-hand side was the installation of the classroom next to the greenhouse. The following slide are the actual projects that we'll be presenting at the hearing at HED December 13th. And I'm going to skip to page 6, if you will, of those forms. These are the extensive forms that we have to fill out and submit at a hearing and also be heard at a hearing with HED. I just wanted to break down the project costs for you. It's a $345,000 project, $40,000 worth of contingency, $65,000 worth of A&E firms. $20,000 of that is going to be for a feasibility study to decide what we want to do with our wastewater treatment plant for the next 10 years, and $45,000 for design. So the total project cost is $450,000. And we'll ask for HED approval on December 13th at their hearing. And then we'll skip down to the Molson and Corbin engineering design. Just about 5 slides forward. This is the actual engineers that actually helped me present the cost estimates. So these estimates are based on real actual engineering analysis. The next page shows the actual language, and it's fourth paragraph down, and it's $1,500,000 to plan, design, construct, renovate, furnish, and equip infrastructure upgrades and roofing campus-wide at Santa Fe Community College. So those 2 previous projects I mentioned, the $450,000 wastewater treatment and $400,000 roof, will come from this $1.5 million that was appropriated by our legislature in 2016. The $400,000 roofing project is the next project. That's it in front of you. And if you go to page 6 on that project sheet, there's a breakdown of costs. $385,220 for the construction, $14,783 for parapets, for a total of $400,000. And then if you just continue on down to the roofing plan, which is about 5 slides forward, one back. There you go. So when we do roofing upgrades at the Santa Fe Community College, we have already completed what I call a roofing plan. So we're not just coming up with the sections of roof. We actually have identified our entire campus of roofing. We identify the warranties and the sections of roofs that are the oldest, and we use that to prioritize what roofs we're going to do next. That was a major undertaking that we initiated when I came here. And that's all I have.
That's all. That's a lot.
Comments, questions?
Because I can't see, on the roofing update plan, could you tell us so are we looking at roof A Unit 3?
Yes.
Or the blue? What would we be replacing?
Thank you, Member Keith, members of the board, President Cervantes. Thanks for that question. It's difficult to read that writing. It's very fine. Mm-hmm. But we're actually Section A, which is that blue section.
Uh-huh. All of that blue section.
That's a huge section. We won't be doing all of that. We did last 2014. We did a huge section of that roof, basically from the president's office all the way to the cafeteria. Mm-hmm. And now we're going to do from that cafeteria all the way down to the general services area.
So it's kind of a really big section of roof. We're doing a piece at a time based on the limited funding we get.
Okay.
But it's the blue area?
That's the blue area, and we'll probably be doing, where it says roof section unit 3, north of that, we'll be doing with this section of funding. So about a third of that section of blue. And we already did a third of that section of blue, so we're working our way down.
Henry, could you comment on I remember there has been discussion about the upgrading of the wastewater treatment. Exactly what is that involving now? I know there was some discussion earlier about linking up with Rancho Viejo.
Yes, sir. Chairman, members of the board, Board Member Gamble and President Cervantes, thank you for the question. Yes, that's a very important question. Thank you. We had gone, well, let me back up and give you kind of a real brief assessment of what our goals were. We ultimately would like to get out of the wastewater treatment business, to be truthful with you. Our plant is antiquated. It's about 35 years old. And we have a regional facility that's about a mile, as a crow flies, about a mile and a half from us, that's got a 300,000 gallon capacity, and they're only treating about 100,000 gallons. And that plant's brand new. Our plant is old and antiquated and has not been inspected for a number of years to our benefit. And if we were to replace our plant, you're looking at $7 to $10 million and continual reviews from our New Mexico Environment Department. So with the availability of that plant being less than a mile away, the cost for us to actually just transfer our waste to that new plant would be much more advantageous for us over the long term. So this feasibility study for $20,000, Molson Corbin is going to look at our existing plant, look at the feasibility of actually utilizing the Rancho, it's called Ranchlands wastewater utility, looking at the feasibility of actually transferring our waste through a lift station and injection pumps, and instead of treating our own waste, we would actually pump it down to Ranchlands and let them treat it for us. And ultimately, I think that's our best benefit over the long haul. That's what our engineers are telling us, and from my assessment at the cost of treating waste and the increased liability that we'd have over the next several years with New Mexico Environment Department, it's probably going to be to our advantage to go forth with that. But we want to make sure that we have engineering look at that and give us a better analysis and the best assessment of how to move forward with our plans over the next 10 years.
Has there been any consideration of recycling treatment of that wastewater? Recycling?
From our part?
Yes.
We do recycle it. We recycle about 80% of our wastewater, and we irrigate the campus with that.
And the other 20%?
We use groundwater and water from county utility. We don't have sufficient waste to irrigate the entire campus. Only about 80% of the campus is irrigated with wastewater. So essentially what we would be doing is we'd transfer our waste to Ranchland, and we'd pump that retreated water back to the college.
Okay.
Right now, we treat our own waste and we irrigate our own campus.
Okay. So currently we're treating 100% of our wastewater.
Correct.
And we would do the same thing at Ranchlands, but
we just pump it back here.
Right, okay.
So does that mean we need two pipes, one that goes down and one that comes up?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct, Member Siegel.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to give you an engineering degree.
But it's downhill going there.
Yeah, okay.
What is the impact to Rancho Viejo, and whose decision is it to connect us?
We've already been in discussion with the principal at Rancho Viejo, Mr. Thompson. It would be ultimately their community committee's decision. They are a ranchland wastewater utility, so they are a utility. Mm-hmm. They have a 3,000 gallon capacity. They're only treating 100,000, so we'd only be adding about 30,000 gallons to that. Mm-hmm. So we're within their reasonable treating amount.
And on that point, they asked us about 10 years ago if we would pump our wastewater, give them our water, because they were maybe at 50,000 or even less.
They're underutilizing their plant. It would be, and really the New Mexico Environment Department wants us to go regional rather than have a bunch of little wastewater treatment plants. They would rather see us do that.
So my other question was about the roof, and is that part of the roofing that is solar powered? And
This section has no panels on the
That
roof.
has no
No.
panels
We actually don't have any solar panels on the roof except for TATC facility. That's the only roof that has solar panels. The HEC, of course, has solar panels, but here on the main campus, the only roof with solar panels is the TATC facility. Otherwise, we don't have panels on the roof.
do we have any hope of doing that?
I think if we did additional panels, which we probably will as part of our IGA, our investment grade audit, we'll actually put those panels on the parking lot.
Oh,
Covers?
Covers with the recharging station as well.
okay.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No, that should do it.
Any other questions? Okay, so we'll have this on our agenda for our special meeting on Monday at whatever time.
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, now, are we on to the matters of policy?
Yes.
First reading?
Yes, we are. And as we discussed during the work session, these policies were reviewed as part of the 3 to 5 year cycle. And the purpose being to make the policies easier to find and easier to read and easier to understand. So in the case of 3-2 directed studies, based on the review by the curriculum committee and the faculty, it's recommended that we fold the directed studies policy into 3-6 faculty workload policy. And, we had a good discussion about it, I think, at work session as to why we did this and why it would simplify matters in terms of understanding. And again, we're only integrating directed studies into workload, not doing any other changes to the workload policy at this time. Any questions? This is first reading, so I think we discussed it already in work session. 4-5, conflict of interest. Again, this was reviewed by legal counsel and includes the exact language from the New Mexico Governmental Conduct Act. And, dealing with the honoraria situation in order to help our employees who might have to have a second job because of the cost of living in Santa Fe. But the outside employment was clarified and the honoraria was clarified. Moving on.
Then on page 5, we also had, the employees may not solicit business while working for SFCC. I thought we were going to tweak that.
Oh,
some.
yes, that's right.
I'm not-
And Laura captured that, so she will. Thank you, Laura. Anything else on that, or can we move on to 4-26?
We made several corrections, I think.
Yes, we did.
I think we got them.
We've talked about them.
Yeah.
Yes, we did, that's right.
Okay. Seniority?
Seniority, the main thing we did on this policy is cleaned it up and added date of hire under definition 2 to distinguish between the start date for staff and the start dates for faculty. So for faculty, the date of hire is the first day that faculty are required to report prior to the beginning of a semester. Was the main change in the definition there that we're trying to clarify. Again, to distinguish between the start date for staff and for faculty. And then 4-36, and this was brought to the to the Shared Governance Committee by the Staff Senate to request an increase in the Employee Education Benefit, the EEB, from 5 credits per semester to 6 credits, 6 credit hours. Since most courses that are offered for 3 credits each, this would really help them as they're working towards their degree, etc., to have the 6 credit availability per semester rather than the 5. And I did check with Nick to ensure that we wouldn't have a financial impact, which he said that we wouldn't because space, the staff take classes based on availability. There's open seats available, so we wouldn't be losing any money because there'd be available seats in the class.
Okay.
And then moving on, policy 6-9, fundraising, solicitation, and acceptance of contributions. This policy was updated to reflect current fundraising practices, to further define the role of the foundation, and to ensure the routine student fundraising is not impacted by the Santa Fe Community College Foundation's newly instituted 5% administrative fee on contributions.
Well, I have a number of comments about this one.
Sure.
That we didn't cover in work
Yeah.
session. So the first one is under number 5 in the policy, in the definitions. The fundraising activities and fundraisers organized to financially support a specific goal examples of at SFCC include but are not limited to events, raffles, t-shirt sales, and silent auctions. And so I'm wondering, later I think it talks about those exclusions. What about things like SGA? The SGA does a number of, fairly small and the kitchen cupboard, that kind of thing. I would wonder if we needed to somehow acknowledge that.
Yes, Madam Chair, Board Member Romero, I'm here to talk about this policy. This is really a foundation policy.
Yeah, right.
Put forth, and I believe it says in the lower in the text of this policy, we did address or tried our best to address that. If we can keep going down.
Well, I'm just looking at the clean policy, and the clean policy doesn't say anything about that. It just says that those are events organized to financially support a specific goal. So it's number 5 under definitions. There.
Okay, I think we might be able to address the concern under D, administrative fee.
Okay.
It talks about contributions over the amount of $500 from external organizations such as banks, foundation, corporation, would be subject to the 5% fee. So any contribution over $500. Contributions to agency funds below $500 are not subject to the administrative fee. And in-kind contributions are not subject to the foundation's administrative fee.
So that would assume that SGA, for example.
SGA is an agency fund.
Right, okay. My other question has to do with temporarily restricted contributions, number 11, under that same section. And there are a couple of things that have to do with this. But this is a pretty general statement that the donor's restrictions may be for a particular purpose or program or for use in a specific time period. I once oversaw actually it was through a state agency, a college that specifically excluded people of color and LGBT participants from participating. I wondered if it was important for us to, to make some comment about that.
I believe that the foundation has that in their fundraising the foundation fundraising policy that would address that, but I don't have it exactly, I don't know
Well,
where to do it.
when you look at it again, you might want to see whether you need to add this statement here. So often with policies like this, it may say one thing in one place and something else in another, and then it's subject to interpretation. So I would suggest that you might want to look at that.
I will contact our foundation and see if they have something in place. If not, we'll put something in.
Yeah. One other comment that I had, just kind of generally, is the notion there, and it's, I guess it's under BC3, I guess it is. Individuals may not deposit cash contributions intended for the college into personal accounts. One of the legal requirements of that gets in the way sometimes is somebody who will come to the college and say, here's $3,000. I want this to be a contribution to X student. I want to pay the tuition for X student, but I want to give it to the foundation so that I can use it as a tax exemption. And that's expressly forbidden. So I think we need to be more specific about that. So that if somebody says, let's say you're at a function and you meet a student and you're really taken by the student and you say, okay, I'm going to pay your tuition. And then it assumes that you're going to pay through the foundation. Then you cannot do that. And so we need some kind of language in this document that expressly forbids that.
That's a good point, yeah.
Yeah. And then my final comment is that I would really hope that we would be sure to include this in the discussion with the foundation board.
Yes.
So that we are all on the same page about that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So you got that?
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Any other comments on this? Okay. Now, Donna, you said there was something about we can approve these at the December 13th meeting, and does that address the Senate's issue about the hours?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Because that would be in time for the spring
Semester.
Yeah,
The spring semester
okay, 'cause-
tuition.
Yeah, okay.
It would be in time.
Okay.
For us to get the fee,
To get it published
yes,
or whatever.
and to put it into the system, I think for the staff to be able to sign up for 6 hours under this benefit rather than 5.
Right, okay. Okay. We're done with that. So our next meeting is a joint meeting with the Foundation Board on December 13th. And that will be from 3 to 5. And then 5 to 5:30 is dinner, and then we'll have our regular meeting.
Yes.
Except that Donna has brought to our attention that we haven't had a Higher Learning Center meeting for, we don't need it.
In the Open Meetings Act, I think you have to have at least 3 in a year.
Oh, the higher.
See, we have you probably don't even notice.
Yes, I do.
Oh, you
I've
do
forgotten
notice,
that that's
yeah.
a different
We have a
board.
different board, which is
Yes.
really the same board, but different.
We haven't had 3?
No, there's only been 2.
Oh, really? Okay.
I think February and June. June was the last one.
Yeah.
Okay, double check.
There were 3 too, but, yeah.
But if
We had
not,
one in
we could
June.
have a 30.
But if not, we can have one.
We could have a 30-minute one at 5:30.
Sure.
And get it done.
And then we can have our regular board meeting, which should be abbreviated because we won't have financials to review. We'll just have some policies and a few things, I guess.
And if we could put that fundraising policy on the agenda for the joint boards,
Yeah,
I think that would be really helpful.
Yeah, we could put all these policies on the agenda for our board meeting. Oh, put them on for discussion.
one.
Just
Yes.
That one.
Yeah.
That we just
At
had
the joint meeting.
presentations,
Yeah,
et cetera.
So you'll tell Deborah.
Yes.
Okay. Now we need to go into closed session for all these reasons.
Okay.
Can we have a motion?
I move we go into closed session for reasons stated on the agenda.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Aye.
okay.
Yeah. 3 meetings.
It is.
Because of,
That always confuses me because
Nick, you're going to work on that resolution. You'll have it tomorrow?